all. We are back and we are at the beginning of the end here with the book of John. We are going to begin to see sort of the transition of Christ's message, the end of Christ's life, the end of his message here on earth. We're going to see the transition of his life into eternal life for us here. I really just want you to focus on the goodness of that. Focus on, or sort of think about what it would be like to have experienced this. This happened in history. This happened for real. So there were men and women who were witnessing and mourning the death of someone very dear, very real, and very hopeful for them. Not that I'm going to liken Jesus to any person now, because I just don't think there's anyone that could do justice. I like to think that it was sort of like watching someone, it was like watching someone famous die. Just the heartbreak over Maya Angelou, the sadness in her passing, even just sort of the reverence we have for Martin Luther King and George Washington, just the idea of, celebrating and embracing those days. They're not just days off work, believe it or not. And so I just sort of, the significance of that to us now was what Jesus was for those, for these people back then. And that is just an amazing thing to just watch these people sort of experience, watch Jesus process and handle what he knows is coming, and then watch his followers sort of experience all of the emotion and all of the excitement. And by excitement, I mean the scary, the sad, the happy that comes with sort of this time. And they knew, they had been told, he prefaced this all with them and or for them, and they didn't, I don't think that, obviously, they didn't necessarily understand the magnitude of all of the things. And so I just have really been trying to focus on how did they maintain hope? Did they maintain hope? And then how did they maintain hope in this time? And, if I was back then, what would that have felt like and been like for me? So that is where I want you to focus in the next 4 chapters that we have, or the chapters that we're going to have left after this. We had John 16 and 17 last week. I really got focused on Christ's prayers in chapter 17. I just felt really encouraged sort of by how he prayed. I know that the Lord's Prayer is something that we rely on heavily as an example of how to pray, or what a good prayer looks like. And I looked at these 3 prayers that Jesus makes in John chapter 17, and I felt like I'm doing, I have ways I can improve in, praying, but that I'm not doing half bad. And I feel like there's some fancy language and special things we're supposed to say. And Jesus doesn't. Jesus is just talking to his Father. And I think that is a really life-giving way to pray. And so I've been trying to dedicate myself to that. So there's a challenge for you. But I wanted to point out a couple significant things. He prays that people will see his first prayer. Jesus prays to be glorified. Verses 1 through 5. He prays for people to see him, to hear him, to know what is happening through him. And I think that that's a prayer that's still very real today. Yeah, we are not being crucified. Yeah, we are not granting eternal life. But you are introducing people to God. You are speaking on his behalf, behaving on his behalf. And that's a powerful thing. So just to pray for yourself in that regard, to say, God, I want to, shine my best for you. I want to shine knowing that I am doing, my work in your presence. And that can be a challenging thing sometimes, because it feels weird to pray for yourself in that way. The idea that glory isn't what comes from you, it's what shines through you, kind of. That's really powerful. So I would just encourage you to spend a little extra time this week saying, God, help me glorify you in the way that you have set forth for me. Help me to be something that emanates you. Help me to be something that just irradiates your goodness in your life. So that was his first prayer. His second prayer for the disciples. Jesus is praying for us right here. I know specifically we were not there. I know we were not, in the room, watching betrayals, watching him be taken away. But But he's praying for us. We are his disciples. We are his children. He is praying for anyone that leads in any way, shape, or form, be it on your blog, be it at your church, be it at camp, be it through a youth group or whatever, you or women's group. You're leading people, and in leading people, you're doing what the disciples were doing. You're sharing his message. You're sort of trying to be a light, trying to act as a bigger light for a bigger group of people. And a lot of times you're sort of a leader for Christians, for other believers. And so that's a cool thing. And it's just cool to see sort of where his priorities are in that prayer. That we know him, that we know the truth, that we are confident in our faith and in the God that we believe in. Pretty cool. And then Jesus prays for all believers. And I just appreciate in verse 20, he says, my prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. He's not praying for just now. He's praying for later. He's not praying for, who's in the circle. He's praying for the people who are going to hear from who is in the circle. And it's cool. So basically every single one of us has been caught in this prayer. I don't think he did it in a safety net way. I think he did it very genuinely and very heartwarmingly. But it just is cool to know I was included in that prayer that he prayed, 2014 years ago. So I really encourage you to read through chapter 17 again and just sort of feel those prayers in you. I encourage you to pray like him this week, even if you just dedicate one day to each section. And just realize it's not about being fancy. It's not about, how many times you say God or Lord in your prayer, but it's about the connection. It's about an honest plea and conversation before him. Prayer is probably where I struggle the most, and so I am trying to be better at that. And John chapter 17 might be my new reference. So there's that. The verse of the week.